Hey everybody, quick video tonight because I had a long day at work. I just wanted to react to Nick Freitas's little thing he did at YAF for YAF. I forget where the place is at, but I'll be posting his video on it in the description. I just wanted to react to this real quick and then post it. So let's get into that before I head to bed because man, am I tired.
I'm going to make what I think is a fair presentation of the anti-gun, or maybe we'll just say pro-gun control argument. Okay, and then anybody here that's in the opposition, maybe, you can tell me whether or not you think I've at least done a semi-decent job of doing so. Okay, so here it goes. The issue is not that complicated. When we look at the amount of gun violence in the United States and we compare it with other countries around the world, what we see is that it's exponentially higher of countries which would be comparable. And by comparable, we talk about similar levels of development, education, maybe common cultural standards and things of that nature. It's much higher in the United States, significantly higher, almost up to 50,000 gun deaths a year. And it seems to be primarily in the United States. Not to mention the fact that latest statistics coming out of the CDC have illustrated that gun deaths have now become the leading cause of child deaths in the United States of America. That's horrendous. Any gun death is bad, but a gun death perpetrated against a child must be uniquely abhorred by any sort of civilized society. And so while there may be some consideration with respect to certain firearms that may be necessary for hunting, or may be appropriate for collecting, or maybe even appropriate for home defense on some levels, the idea that we have to pass greater restrictions on things like high-capacity magazines, assault weapons, maybe semi-automatic rifles or semi-automatic pistols, this is just a common sense thing that we have to do in order to care for the people that are clearly suffering as a result of this. Yeah. Again, we have to recognize that what differentiates the United States from other countries in the world is that other countries in the world, which have people and have guns and have other similar circumstances that we're dealing with, violent video games or TV or whatever else we might consider, still don't have the same amount of gun violence. Why? Because guns are incredibly easy to get in the United States and they're far more difficult to get in other countries. So therefore, we need to have comprehensive, not only gun control, but we need to have things like buyback programs. We need to have restrictions on...
This is definitely the argument I have heard 100,000 times. I have been pro-gun my entire life. I have been hunting and fishing almost my entire life. I've only stopped it recently because I've been dead, poor, broke, couch hopping, and literally just haven't had a stable enough residence to do it.
Different types of firearms, and yes, we may have certain categories where we actually need to engage in forms of confiscation, hopefully voluntary. But if people persist in keeping a hold of weapon systems that they don't need for any practical purpose with respect to home defense, hunting, or collection,
I'll wait for him to finish before I ask that question. Because I got a really favorite question there.
And we can talk about what the just compensation would be, just like if we were going to do a taking with respect to eminent domain. But in the end, this is about saving lives. And I think we need to be far more concerned about the number of young people that are dying on our streets than the potential of foreign invasion or a government imposing absolute tyranny on us.
Now, yeah, that's the argument.
Would that be a fair 100% representation of what people that are usually asking for more gun control or even gun confiscation, that'd be a fair representation of some of the common arguments that you hear? Okay, so I'm not ignorant of the arguments.
Agreed. Neither am I.
Oppose them. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to try to establish that I'm not literally Hitler. Okay, and I'm not evil. It's not that I'm sitting here as a father of 3 children. It's not that I'm sitting here and I'm just obtuse, that I'm so obsessed with my gun fetish.
He's got a better benefit on that than me.
I don't care about what's going on our streets or going on with respect to mass shootings, especially students being targeted. But I do have a different experience. Now, the first experience that I want to point out here is that I am old enough to remember when people would actually have guns in their cars during hunting season when they went to school. For pretty much as long as I can remember, and as long as we can look back in American history, guns have been fairly prolific. You know what hasn't been?
Yeah.
School shootings. That's not fairly prolific in American history. And so I'm looking at this from the standpoint of a causation correlation issue. Something has happened that we definitely.
Okay, I'm gonna pause this, and my question to anyone who is pro gun control is this: how do you get a defined practical and what's practical when it comes to a firearm? What's practical to own ever, end of story, period? And how can that practicality argument not then get used towards other things and other means eventually? That's my problem with
it. Definitely need to get to the bottom of as a society. And I'm not willing to accept that, well, if we just get rid of the guns, that takes care of it. That takes care of the violence. No, something is driving, especially younger and younger people, to commit acts of violent crime, whether it be things like gang violence, whether it be things like mass shootings, at increasing levels, which has to be addressed.
Agreed. This is the real question. What is driving all this violence? Is it literally just the guns? Because guns have been prolific throughout American history for a long time.
Beyond simply pointing to the instrument that is being used and saying, well, just take that. The other thing I will say is I have a very unique experience also having served in Iraq. I have seen what happens to a population when they are summarily disarmed and left at the mercy of both criminal and terrorist elements.
Yeah, that's true of that place.
The other thing I would point out is we should absolutely talk about the roughly 48,000 gun-related deaths that we will see in the United States. We should also be willing to point out that about 58% of them will be suicides.
Yeah.
If you remove one implement, I'm willing to bet in many cases people find a new implement. And so I absolutely want to get to the bottom of how do we effectively address suicide. When it comes to a lot of the homicides that we're seeing, I absolutely want to address that too. I'm a little bit confused why so many of the people, and nobody gets to tell me this isn't true because I've seen it firsthand in the General Assembly in Virginia, why so many of the people that want to summarily disarm me also commonly advocate for the early release of violent felons.
Yeah, that's bothersome.
I don't understand.
Especially nowadays. That's confusing.
That doesn't seem to make sense to me. I will also point out that one of the biggest problems that we have right now with respect to debate across a wide array of categories in this country is the deliberate manipulation of data for political ends.
That is absolutely true and sickening how much that happens. Like, what a lot of people want to do is just use the statistics and call the statistics there, and that's it, end of story, period. And not look into the study and how it was performed. A lot of people just take the stats from the study and don't look at the study and how it was done and evaluate it, because it's not hard to evaluate a study or to look at a study and go, I don't think they did a good job evaluating the stuff in this study. I really don't. So I think I'm not going to take this study highly, or I am going to take this study highly. Like, it's not that hard to do, I promise you. Anyone with an IQ over 80 can do it. Probably closer to maybe, if we're really looking at it, like 90 is what you need to really, really be able to look at any study ever and go, I think this is a valid study. I don't think this is a valid study. And that's kind of what you need to do as a human being. And yes, you do need to devote and dedicate that time towards that kind of thing. If you don't, you're screwing yourself. Because you're taking information and not learning about the information. You're not understanding the information. And if you do that, you don't have any information at all. This is why I continuously promote reading the Bible as much as I do and say that the reading the Bible is super, super important. You need to read it, and when I say read it, I mean comprehend it. Part of that comprehension when it comes to the Bible is understanding the historical context, understanding the culture, understanding those things and that kind of stuff, because that gives you reference and understanding to what's going on in the text. You would do that for Plato, you would do that for Shakespeare. Why don't you do that for, this gun control argument? Why don't you look at it and evaluate it in the current modern culture, context, all those kind of things, and on top of that, then evaluate and look at the statistics going on? And then two, why don't you look at and understand what's going on there for the Bible? Why? Why not? You need to do that, and you have the time in your day to do that. If you've got time to mindlessly drain your brain on TikTok, you've got time to do this stuff. Don't waste your brain power. It's a powerful tool that people want to burn away. That evil, bad people want to burn up. Why are you letting them do that?
When the CDC comes out and says that firearms are the #1 killer of children, they are lying. They are lying in their own data.
Really?
How do I know? Well, I look at the data. And how do they track it? Ages 1 to 19.
Huh. Wow. That throws things for a loop, doesn't it? 1 to 19. You know, I'm struggling to remember something. It's something about adulthood in the United States. What was it? What is it? Oh yeah, when you turn 18, you become a legal adult. Huh. So why are they throwing 18 and 19-year-olds in a study about children? 18 and 19-year-olds are considered legal adults. Wow. Just that basic evaluation instantly tells you the study is a fraud. And that would take you 10 seconds of looking at the study. And you could instantly go, huh, 1 to 19? What? But 19-year-olds and 18-year-olds are kids. So why are they included in a study about kids? God, people make me sick.
Now, is it still horrific when an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old?
Agreed. Absolutely. It's horrific when an 18-year-old or 19-year-old murders or kills themselves. It absolutely is. It's devastating. Trust me. I've watched that horror show. I've been a part of that horror show. It's not a fun time. I don't wish it on anyone. It's one of the worst things you can go through as a human being.
Dies as a result of a firearm. Yes. But why are you including them in statistics with children when you don't include them in other statistics with children?
Agreed.
Oh, it's because you want to try to make a stronger case.
Ah.
Oh, by the way, when we generally talk about children in these statistics, we don't include 18 and 19. We also don't typically include 15, 16, or 17.
Yeah, usually studies involving children, FYI, in every other case, usually end at 13 to 14 is usually the ending for children as a classification. Usually, after 15, you're considered, most cases it's usually 13, or 12 is the cap. It's 13 or 12 is the cap. And then after that, you're considered a teenager, and at those statistics cap out, get this, at 17. And then the statistics move on to 18 plus. And usually the bracket is like 18 to 30.
Why are they doing it for this status? In order to bump the numbers. What happens to firearms as the cause of death for children once you remove those? Oh, it goes from #1 to 19.
Oh.
I guess that doesn't...
Wow. That really shocks me. That when you remove the 18 and 19-year-olds, and you also remove the 15-year-olds and up, that the statistics go down all the way to 19th place in the United States. Super interesting.
Sound as well on your flyer. Why do you start at 1 instead of when they're born? Because once again, It messes with your stats and your data.
Oh, it does?
Now, anybody that does a cursory search of this can see that the CDC cooked the books to get a number. Here's what I don't like. When I point this out, what I will hear is, well, regardless of what that is, does it make it any less horrific? I'm like, no, stop.
Agreed. Stop right there.
Civil debate as much in this country anymore is because we have decided that we're just going to manipulate data however we want, and then when you get caught manipulating it, your response is not to say, okay, that was inappropriate, they shouldn't have done it that way. Your response is to say, but who cares?
Yeah, that's the dumb thing. Yep. It happens all the time.
If you want us to be able to look at common data and common stats so we can come to conclusions and use reason and logic and the scientific method in order to properly diagnose problems,
agreed,
so we can hopefully come up with appropriate solutions, we have to be able to rely on the idea that the people gathering that data, analyzing that data, and putting stats out are doing so in good faith.
Yeah.
Because when you take over an organization in order to manipulate it to get the results you want, what ends up happening is I don't just lose faith in that study, I lose faith in the organization conducting it.
Oh, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
More and more we have Americans getting in discussions with one another, arguing with one another, and they think, well, I've got the gold standard, I have this study. I don't even care what that study says anymore. I don't care what that organization says anymore. And the more of that we have, the less likely it is for us to be able to come to any sort of realistic compromise when it makes sense, or just correct conclusions in order to correct error in thinking.
Yeah. It's a huge problem.
The other thing that I will point out with respect to firearms is the fact that the numbers range, but the broader estimates suggest anywhere from 2.5 to 3 million self-defense gun uses per year in America.
I didn't even know it was that high. The lowest number I heard was 500,000. That's the mega low ball number, by the way. It's 500,000 instances of self-defense cases a year with firearms. Is the low ball number I have heard and I have seen is 500,000. So you have 48,000 deaths with the extreme cook to the book statistics, and then you have 500,000 lives saved. Or instances where a life could have been put at risk that didn't happen because a firearm was involved. That's 500,000 instances is the low ball number. And that's an incredibly hard statistic to obtain for obvious reasons. Because many of those cases, someone may not even file a police report. Because the situation got resolved with the gun, and no shot was fired, no police needed called, so no one contacted the authorities. And everything just ended. So 48,000 to 500,000 is the stats you're weighing out. I don't know about you, but like, if you're just a statistics person, if you're a cold hard math guy, there's a clear side which favors the other. And obviously, the mid ball number is 1.3. The high ball number is 2.5. And like, I've seen the absurd lying statistics that is 150,000 a year. I think it was like 100,000 cases of like police reported incidents where a firearm entered a situation without a shot fired. Is what I think it came down to. So you still have, at the lowest actual trackable ball number, is 100,000 to 48,000, with the absolute cooked books number. I don't know about you, but that's pretty good. That's a rate that I think is acceptable. I don't know about you. Double the lives saved compared to double the lives lost. If you're just a statistics person,
The lower number is 500,000 per year.
Oh, you even mentioned it. Cool.
Which means, we'll take the lower number, 500,000. So 500,000 times in America, somebody used a firearm in order to prevent themselves from becoming a victim. What happens when you take it away?
You get 500,000 more crimes.
Let's say you have the woman that has been a victim of domestic abuse. And she's done. She's tired of it. She's tired of getting hit. She's worried the next time she might die. So she gets a firearm.
Good.
He comes over. He threatens her. She has to defend herself. She shoots him. Well, in the gun violence statistics, that is a worse scenario than if he beat her to death.
Yeah.
Do you understand how that's tracked? She shoots the guy beating her. Gun violence statistics went up. You don't let him get the gun, he beats her to death, gun violence statistics go down. This is part of the reason why I think it was Mark Twain said that there's lies, damn lies in statistics. It's not that statistics don't have value, but they can be incredibly easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
Finally, I will just point out from a philosophical standpoint, whenever we're talking about public policy, obviously we want to live in a safe environment. We also want to live in a free environment.
True.
There's always going to be a struggle there. If I wanted everyone to be perfectly safe tomorrow, the surest way the best way I could ensure that would happen is I could put you all in padded cells. You'd be safe.
Yeah, that's true.
You'd be safe. Solitary confinement.
Everybody gets in a Judge Dredd ISO cube for all eternity. Woohoo! Doesn't that sound like fun? Doesn't it sound like fun being in the rubber box? Not interacting with anybody? You're safe. You don't have to worry about anything. 3 meals a day. Don't have to contact anybody. Perfect, right?
In prison is one of the safest places you could possibly be. And yet, nobody's dying to get in there.
Weird.
So we do want to have a free society. How do we balance these things? Well, for anybody that will tell me that for me to point out that the reason why the Second Amendment was put into place was not for hunting. The reason why it was put into place is because our founders took it very, very seriously. That in order to secure a free state,
Facts.
the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be
Go
infringed.
read the Federalist Papers.
Actually, let's take that in its
Go
place,
read.
because that's another one of the arguments I hear. It says, no. A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep.
And this is where I get mad, because this is again the problem of people not taking historical context and meaning into consideration with things. Which, by the way, any document past 20 years in your time, you need to do. Because if you don't, you're a moron. Any document written older than 20 years to 30 years of your age, past your age, you need to start looking at the historical context behind that document. And the setting, the time period, and the writer. Before you do anything. Before you make any presumptions with that document. Because if you don't, you are intrinsically falsifying the information in your head, and you are not giving credit to where credit is due, and not thinking about everything correctly. Yes, there is a correct way to think. There is a correct way to critically think about things. And whether people like it or not, context does matter. Time and place matters. Getting multiple perspective and viewpoints does matter. Don't just go off of what you saw or what you read on the surface level of things. Dig in the depths of the ocean. I will repeat that till the day I die, I feel.
Firearms shall not be infringed. There's actually a couple of different responsibilities being discussed in there. One has to do with the well-regulated militia, because if you actually look at the founders, they were actually very, very skeptical of standing armies.
Yep.
They were always concerned the federal government had a big standing army, that the federal government would go looking for wars.
Oh. Oops. Well, that one didn't happen.
But what was the well-regulated militia? Well, if you talk to George Mason, it was made up of the body of the people. The right of the people to keep and bear arms.
Yeah.
So understand that our founders weren't
Fascinating.
just putting this in place because they wanted you to be able to hunt. They weren't even just putting it in place because they wanted you to be able to defend yourself. They thought it was absolutely essential to the security of a free state. And I think sometimes we get used to a certain level of prosperity or comfort by historical standards, and we think,
we don't need that, and then that bites you in the ass.
I think we have short memories.
Yep.
I
Agreed.
think we need to understand that sometimes things also work as
It's not just that people have short memories. They have a short memories, and they want to keep having a short memory, and they purposely have a short memory.
a deterrent. Because another thing war has taught me is never fail to underestimate what human beings are capable of justifying once they think they have the power, authority, and moral justification to do it.
Yeah. Facts.
So
That's the spooky part.
I've always made my position very, very clear. I am more than happy to work with anybody in good faith to try to reduce gun violence, to try to reduce accidental deaths, to try to reduce any sort of death associated with violence, whether it includes a firearm or otherwise.
Agreed.
But let's also be honest. When you say you're anti-gun, or when you say you want gun confiscation, or when you say you just want common sense gun control, you're not anti-gun.
Yeah.
You still want the government to have them.
Yep.
You just don't want me to.
Yep. It's relating this to another topic. It's the question that I often ask a lot of atheists nowadays. Why does the concept of God bother you so much? Why does it make you so angry? Because I always get an angry-ish response, or like the people I run into are always angry about God in some capacity or another. So I always, instead of whatever they're discussing or trying to discuss, I always ask them, why are you angry at the concept or idea of God? You can apply that here to this, wherein, why does the concept of me having a firearm when you also could have a firearm bother you so much? Why are you choosing to live in fear?
Well, let me put this one right on the nose. My firearms in my hands have never hurt anybody
Facts!
that was innocent, because I have been to war.
I didn't get to go to war, so I never shot anybody. I never had to shoot anybody yet in my life. And I pray to God that I never have to. Because that's a burden that's really hard to bear. It does a lot to a human being.
But they have served to defend my family, and they will continue to do so. It's not a question of
Yep.
whether or not you're going to get them. You aren't. Because I think it's also essential to a free state. I think it's
Agreed.
also essential to securing people. And it has never made sense to me that the rights of law-abiding people should be immediately forfeit because somebody else chooses to abuse theirs.
Agreed. Okay, that's going to be it for the video tonight. Thank you guys. Have a good night. God bless. Catch you all later. Remember to like, subscribe.